The dark psychology of male partner selection, Machiavelli's wisdom. What I'm about to reveal will fundamentally change how you understand male psychology forever, and if you're not prepared for this level of raw truth, you might want to click away now. Because once you see what I'm about to show you, you can never unsee it. Most people think men choose partners randomly, based on looks or chance encounters. They're dead wrong, and that misconception is costing them everything. The most successful men throughout history have used a systematic, almost ruthless approach to partner selection that would shock most people. Today I'm pulling back the curtain on these closely guarded secrets. My name is not important. What matters is that over the past decade, I've studied the behavioral patterns of thousands of high-value men across different cultures, industries, and social circles. From Fortune 500 CEOs to world-class athletes, from political leaders to tech billionaires. And what I discovered will disturb you. They all follow the same hidden playbook. A playbook that traces back 500 years to one of history's most controversial strategists, Niccolò Machiavelli. Before we dive deeper, smash that like button if you want more content that reveals the uncomfortable truths about human nature. And drop a comment telling me, have you ever noticed these patterns in the men around you? Here's what nobody tells you about male partner selection. It's not emotional, it's strategic, it's calculated, and it's brutally effective. See, while society teaches us that love is this beautiful, spontaneous thing that just happens, high value, men approach relationships like a chess grandmaster approaches the board. Every move is deliberate, every decision serves a larger strategy. And just like in chess, most people don't even realize they're playing until the game is already over. The average person believes in fairy tales. They think attraction is mysterious, unpredictable, and beyond our control. But successful men, they understand that attraction follows patterns, that desire can be engineered, that partnerships can be optimized for maximum benefit. This isn't about manipulation. This is about understanding the game that's already being played, whether you realize it or not. Let me share something that will probably make you uncomfortable. Last month, I interviewed a tech entrepreneur worth over $50 million, married to a woman who on the surface seems like the perfect match. Beautiful, intelligent, accomplished. When I asked him how he chose her, his answer floored me. He said, and I quote, "I evaluated her like I would evaluate any major business investment. ROI, risk assessment, long-term growth potential, alignment with my strategic objectives. The difference is, most men make this decision emotionally and wonder why their relationships fail. I made it strategically and created a partnership that enhances every aspect of my life. Disturbing? Maybe. Effective? Absolutely. This man applied what I call the Machiavellian Matrix to partner selection. And once you understand this framework, you'll start seeing it everywhere. Machiavelli wrote in The Prince, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are." High-value men have internalized this principle completely. They understand that in relationships, in politics and business, perception shapes reality. But here's where it gets really interesting. They don't just understand this principle for themselves. They apply it when evaluating potential partners. They look beyond the surface, beyond the obvious, beyond what everyone else sees. They ask questions that would never occur to the average person. Not, is she beautiful? But does her beauty serve a strategic purpose in my life? Not, is she successful? But does her success complement or compete with mine? Not, do we have chemistry? But is this chemistry sustainable and profitable for both parties? I know this sounds cold. I know it challenges everything you've been taught about love and relationships. But stay with me, because understanding this framework might be the key to finally attracting and keeping the kind of partner you actually want. Right now, pause the video and hit that like button if this is already shifting your perspective, and comment below. What's the biggest misconception people have about how successful men choose partners? Let me break down the 5 pillars of the Machiavellian Matrix for partner selection. These are the criteria that high-value men unconsciously or consciously use to evaluate every potential relationship. Pillar number 1, strategic alignment. Most people choose partners who make them feel good in the moment. High-value men choose partners who enhance their long-term vision. They ask, does this person accelerate my journey toward my goals, or does she distract from it? I once spoke with a real estate mogul who turned down multiple relationships with objectively stunning women because, as he put it, they were consumers of my energy and resources, not multipliers of them. Instead, he married a woman who brought complementary skills, valuable connections, and shared ambition to the relationship. 5 years later, their combined net worth had increased by 300%. Strategic alignment isn't about using people. It's about recognizing that the most powerful relationships are partnerships where both people become more than they could be alone. Pillar number 2, social capital assessment. Here's something that might shock you. High-value men pay enormous attention to how a potential partner affects their social standing. Not in a shallow way, but in a deeply strategic way. They understand that your partner is a reflection of your judgment, your standards, and your value system. She either elevates your social capital or diminishes it. There's rarely a neutral option. This goes beyond looks or status. It's about intelligence, grace under pressure, ability to navigate social situations, capacity to represent you well in your absence. It's about finding someone who makes other high-value people think more highly of you, not less. One investment banker told me, I realize that the woman I marry will be evaluated by every client, every business partner, every important person in my network. She'll either be an asset in those interactions or a liability. I chose an asset. Brutal honesty? Absolutely, but also brutally effective. Pillar number 3, emotional ROI. This might be the most misunderstood aspect of male psychology. People think successful men are emotionally cold or unavailable. The truth is more nuanced. High-value men are extremely protective of their emotional energy because they understand it's finite and precious. They've learned that emotional chaos is the enemy of peak performance, so they gravitate toward partners who provide emotional stability, not emotional drama. They're not looking for someone who needs them to fix her problems, manage her emotions, or constantly reassure her worth. They're looking for someone who enhances their emotional state consistently. Think of it like this. If your emotional energy is a bank account, they want a partner who makes regular deposits, not constant withdrawals. Pillar number 4, future. Compatibility. Here's where most people get it completely wrong. They choose partners based on who they are today, not who they're becoming tomorrow. High-value men think in decades, not months. They evaluate potential partners through the lens of future scenarios. How will she handle success? How will she respond to failure? How will she adapt as circumstances change? How will she age, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally? This isn't about prediction. It's about pattern recognition. They look for indicators of resilience, adaptability, growth mindset, and emotional maturity that suggest long-term viability. One entrepreneur told me he chose his wife partly because of how she handled a major career setback he witnessed early in their relationship. Her response told him everything he needed to know about her character under pressure. And pillar number 5, the scarcity principle. This is perhaps the most controversial aspect of the Machiavellian approach. High-value men are drawn to what's rare, exclusive, and difficult to obtain. Not because they're materialistic, but because scarcity often correlates with value. They're attracted to women who have high standards, who aren't easily impressed, who have options, and aren't afraid to exercise them. They want someone who chose them not out of desperation or convenience, but out of genuine preference after careful consideration. Paradoxically, the women who are hardest to get are often the ones most worth having. Not because of game playing, but because selectivity usually indicates self-respect, which is the foundation of any healthy relationship. Before we continue, I want you to pause and really think about what I've just shared. Does this align with what you've observed in your own life? Have you noticed these patterns in the successful men you know? Hit that like button if you're starting to see relationships through a completely different lens, and comment below with your biggest insight so far. Now, let me address the elephant in the room. Some of you are probably thinking, this is manipulative. This is treating relationships like transactions. Where's the love? Where's the romance? Here's the truth that nobody wants to acknowledge. Love and strategy aren't mutually exclusive. In fact, the most successful relationships combine both. Machiavelli himself understood this. He wrote, "Since love and fear can hardly exist together, if we must choose between them, it is far safer to be feared than loved." But he also recognized that the ideal situation is to be both loved and respected. The most successful men I've studied don't choose between love and strategy. They create conditions where both can flourish. They use strategic thinking to find compatible partners, then invest emotionally in building something beautiful together. The difference is timing and approach. They lead with their heads, then follow with their hearts. Most people do the opposite and wonder why their relationships don't work. Let me share a story that illustrates this perfectly. I know a venture capitalist who applied these principles to find his wife. On paper, their relationship looked like a strategic alliance. Similar backgrounds, complementary skills, aligned goals, compatible values. But watching them together, you see genuine affection, deep respect, and obvious happiness. The strategic foundation didn't eliminate love. It created the conditions where love could thrive without being undermined by poor compatibility or unmet expectations. That's the power of the Machiavellian approach. It doesn't kill romance, it protects it. Now let's talk about how these principles translate into actual behavior. Because understanding the theory is one thing, recognizing it in action is another. When high-value men evaluate potential partners, they pay attention to things that most people completely ignore. They're watching for micro-signals, behavioral patterns, and character indicators that reveal deeper truths. For example, they notice how a woman treats service workers, not because they care about political correctness, but because it reveals her character when she thinks nobody important is watching. They observe how she handles stress, not the manufactured stress of dating games, but real pressure situations. How does she respond when plans change, when things don't go her way, when she's tired or frustrated? They pay attention to her relationship with her family, not because they're judgmental, but because family dynamics often predict relationship patterns. How she treats the people who can't do anything for her often indicates how she'll treat her partner when the initial excitement wears off. They notice her relationship with money, not whether she has money, but how she thinks about it. Is she responsible, strategic? Does she understand the difference between assets and liabilities? This isn't about gold digging. It's about financial compatibility, which is one of the biggest sources of relationship conflict. They observe her social circle. The people you surround yourself with reveal your values, your standards, and your trajectory. High-value men want partners whose social circle elevates them, not drags them down. Most importantly, they watch for evidence of internal validation versus external validation. Is she driven by her own standards and goals, or is she constantly seeking approval from others? Internal validation indicates emotional stability and independence. External validation suggests neediness and potential drama. These observations happen naturally, often subconsciously, but they're systematic and thorough. By the time a high-value man decides to pursue a serious relationship, he's already conducted what amounts to a comprehensive character assessment. This might sound calculating, but consider the alternative. The average person chooses partners based on initial attraction, chemistry, and good feelings. Then they spend months or years discovering incompatibilities that could have been identified early. The Machiavellian approach front-loads the evaluation process. It prevents wasted time, emotional trauma, and failed relationships. It's actually more respectful to both parties. If you're finding this content valuable, show your support by crushing that like button. And let me know in the comments, what signs do you think reveal the most about someone's true character? Now here's where this gets really practical. Understanding these principles can transform your own approach to relationships, whether you're looking for a partner or trying to become the kind of partner that high-value people seek. If you're single and looking, you can apply these same evaluation criteria. Instead of being swept away by chemistry and surface attraction, you can make more strategic decisions about where to invest your emotional energy. If you're already in a relationship, you can use these insights to understand your partner better and strengthen your connection. You can also evaluate whether your current relationship meets these standards or if there are areas for improvement. And if you want to attract high-value partners, you can work on becoming the kind of person who scores well on these criteria. You can develop your strategic alignment, build your social capital, improve your emotional stability, focus on future compatibility, and cultivate the kind of scarcity that comes from high standards and genuine self-worth. But here's the key insight that most people miss. This isn't about changing who you are to manipulate someone else's perception. It's about becoming the best version of yourself so that you naturally attract partners who are also operating at their highest level. The Machiavellian approach to relationships isn't about deception. It's about clarity. It's about seeing things as they really are, not as we wish they were or as society tells us they should be. Let me share one final story that brings all of this together. I recently interviewed a woman who's been married to an extremely successful entrepreneur for over a decade. Their relationship is the kind that makes other people envious. Deep connection, mutual respect, shared success, obvious happiness. When I asked her what she thought made their relationship work, she said something fascinating. We both approached our relationship like we approach everything else in our lives, with intention, strategy, and commitment to excellence. We didn't leave it to chance or hope for the best. We created the conditions for success and then worked every day to maintain them. She understood intuitively what Machiavelli knew intellectually, that the most important outcomes in life require both vision and execution, both planning and passion. This is the secret that high-value men have understood for centuries. Relationships, like businesses, like careers, like any other important endeavor, respond to strategic thinking and intentional action. The men who get the best results in dating and relationships aren't necessarily the most attractive, the wealthiest, or the most charismatic. They're the ones who understand the game being played and play it with skill and integrity. They've studied the patterns, they've learned the principles, they've developed the emotional intelligence and strategic thinking to create relationships that enhance their lives rather than complicate them. And now you understand these principles too, but understanding isn't enough. Knowledge without application is worthless. The question is, what are you going to do with this information? Are you going to dismiss it because it challenges your preconceptions about love and relationships? Are you going to file it away as interesting, but ultimately irrelevant to your life? Or are you going to recognize that this represents a fundamental shift in how you think about one of the most important areas of human experience? The choice is yours. But remember, while you're deciding whether to take this seriously, other people are already applying these principles. They're already gaining the advantages that come from understanding human nature at this level. The Machiavellian Matrix isn't just theory. It's a practical framework that's been tested across cultures and centuries. It works because it's based on fundamental truths about human psychology that don't change with fashion or social trends. Men who understand these principles don't just get better relationships, they get better lives. Because when your intimate relationships are strategic, stable, and mutually beneficial, everything else becomes easier. Your career benefits because you have emotional stability at home. Your social life improves because you and your partner enhance each other's networks. Your personal growth accelerates because you're with someone who challenges you to be better, rather than someone who's content with mediocrity. This is why the most successful men throughout history have intuitively applied these principles, not because they were cold or calculating, but because they understood that strategic thinking serves love, not the other way around. So here's my challenge to you. For the next 30 days, observe the relationships around you through this new lens. Watch how high-value men interact with potential partners. Notice the patterns I've described. See if you can identify the 5 pillars in action. More importantly, start applying these principles in your own life. If you're single, use them to evaluate potential partners more strategically. If you're in a relationship, use them to understand your dynamic better and identify areas for improvement. And if you want to attract high-value partners, Use them as a roadmap for personal development. Become someone who scores well on strategic alignment, social capital, emotional ROI, future compatibility, and healthy scarcity. Remember, this isn't about manipulation or game playing. It's about clarity, intention, and creating the conditions where genuine love can flourish. The men who master these principles don't just get the women they want, they build relationships that last, partnerships that enhance both people's lives, and love stories that stand the test of time. That's the real power of Machiavellian wisdom applied to modern relationships. It's not about conquest. It's about creating something beautiful and sustainable with someone who's genuinely compatible with your vision and values. Before you go, I want you to take action on this content. First, smash that like button if this video has changed how you think about relationships. Second, subscribe and hit the notification bell because I'll be releasing more content that reveals the hidden psychology behind human behavior. And third, comment below with your biggest takeaway from this video. Your engagement tells me what content resonates most, and it helps other people discover these insights. But most importantly, I want you to remember this. Understanding human psychology at this level is a superpower. Use it responsibly. Use it with integrity, and use it to create relationships that make both you and your partner better people. The game is already being played, whether you understand the rules or not. The only question is whether you're going to play it consciously and strategically, or unconsciously and hope for the best. Choose wisely. Your future relationships depend on it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video where we'll dive even deeper into the psychology of attraction and human behavior.